Hey, it's Amelia. Today I'm doing my July Pan That Palette update. I just posted 2 days ago my Why Pan That Palette Isn't For Me Anymore video, which I will link. Just because I know some people might have been confused, especially if you don't follow me on Instagram. I'm not quitting this year's project. I'm just not going to be doing it next year or potentially for the next few years. And I'm doing a few different things with this year's project to make it better for me. So because July is the midpoint of the year, I believe the exact middle of the year is July 2nd. I looked it up and I think that's what it was. Because of that, I am going to be putting in comparisons to my intro because comparing to a month before doesn't really tell me as much as how are my goals going compared to the goals that I set at the very beginning. If you haven't been following my project so far, I'm panning along with the Fantastic Ladies for the Let's Get Naked project. I'm doing the original Naked palette, which is this one, and the Naked 2. And I'm also panning 3 single shadows like this from Urban Decay. So I actually brought the singles down this time to show for my updates, so you should all be proud of me. For the original Naked palette, this is what it looks like right now. I did change the tape, so if you didn't watch my intro, these markings where the tape are, that means those shadows are ones that I would consider purchasing as singles like this from Urban Decay or as dupe singles from another brand like Anastasia or something like that. I changed the tape now because, one, I was going to just redo them because the tape started getting messed up. It's just like sticker tape. 2, because my thoughts have changed on a lot of these eyeshadows. I originally had tape on this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I removed the tape. I'm sorry, I have to look in the mirror behind it to see. I removed the tape from Toasted and from Half Baked, which is this one, because I don't really like gold or pink on my eyes anymore. I like pale pinks like Sin, like that one. I think those look pretty on me, but I prefer cool tones or neutral neutrals, whereas those fall under more towards the warm neutrals category, especially Half Baked. So I wouldn't buy either of those, and I wouldn't buy dupes of those in the future. I am going to try to work on Toasted again, this pink one, at some point to see how I like it, because maybe it was just, I don't know, maybe it was the other products I was using it with or something making me not like it. But I do plan to eventually finish all of the shadows in these palettes. It's just not going to be this year. So for this palette, what I've decided is this is the older one. I got this, what year was it? I think it was 2013, and I got it for Christmas, so December 25th, 2013. I'm going to put on screen what age it'll be this Christmas. My goal at the beginning of the year was to make my palettes look their age. This was 4 years old at the beginning of the year-ish, and on Christmas this year, it'll be, I believe, 5 years old, if I can do math correctly. I'm gonna have to ask you guys what you think. Does this look like it's 5 years old yet? Because I've never had a palette for that long. I want to finish Sin, Sidecar, Smog, and then I want to work on these two and a little bit more on Dark Horse because I really want all of this to be empty. So far this year I've only finished 2 shadows, or were they already gone? I think this one had Pan at the beginning of the year. This is Naked. And then Virgin, I'm not sure if it had Pan or not. So I've only finished 2 from this palette, which is, I'm not mad about it because like this is half a shadow, this is half a shadow. So that's like a third one that was finished. This is like less than half a shadow. My progress is just spread out a lot. I'm just trying to make it so you can see because I really can't see what I'm doing. For the ones I marked with tape now, Smog, I have a dupe of. It's a very common bronzy brown. It's nothing special. It is my go-to outer corner shade. It's a eyeshadow that I tend to use in the majority, if not all of my looks, using this palette or warm tones in general, that kind of shade. And then I also like it all over the lid. So I don't necessarily need to buy a single or a dupe of it because I already have one. But I did still want to mark it because it is one that I still love. Sidecar is kind of hard for me to explain. It's a glitter shimmer. It's pink, but it's also kind of brown. It's this one here. I don't know. Swatching is really hard. It almost has it's a warm tone, but it almost has a coolness to it. I don't know. It's very unique to my collection, and everybody seems to hate it, but I actually really enjoy using it. I'm really happy I bought it because, or asked for it as a gift, because this palette, as I talked about in other videos, taught me how to do makeup. Like, watching tutorials on this palette taught me how to build an eyeshadow look. So for example, these were like inner corner shades that could also be used all over the lid. Then there was a light matte brown and a deeper one. I learned how to do my crease that way. Then this Half-Baked was like a lid shade. This I learned how to pick outer corner shades and how to deepen them. These ones, not so much. It was just like these were alternative lid shades, and so was this one. And then I never really knew how to use Creep. Now that I know how I would use it, I don't like using it for that. I don't see a point in a shimmer black. I know some people do in like a really dark smoky eye where they put a shimmer black all over their lid, but I don't personally like to use black for that kind of look. I'll usually use a very dark brown, maybe something like Dark Horse for that. So I would never use Creep all over the lid. And then if I'm going to use a black on the lower lash line or to set my liner, it's going to be matte. So I'm not really thrilled about that shade, and I wish they put black out in that palette, but whatever. Progress from the beginning of the year, I should have talked about that. So I had nothing finished, and I had hit pan on a few shades at the beginning. So this is what it looks like now, and I'm really happy with it. I just don't know how old I would say this looks now. But I'm really happy with the progress I've made, and I'm excited to finish Sin, Sidecar, and Smog, which are these 3. And then I'm just going to go from there. And I would like to focus on this one more than the Naked 2 because it's older. This is the Naked 2. There we go. I got this palette in April or June or May, somewhere spring, summerish time of 2014. This one I actually would say is my favorite over the original Naked palette. A lot of people talk about, when they talk about the Naked palettes, everybody has their palette. The original palette was my palette until I got this and realized that I love cool tones. Although I still love the Naked original, I feel like more so now than I did in the beginning of the year. This is no longer my palette because I used to think I loved all of the shades except for these 2. And now I realize I don't like how warm this is. I don't like how pink this is. I feel like the mattes aren't as good as mattes I have now. These 2 shades are fine, but like I have even more shimmery pale pinks that I prefer to put all over the lid. I don't like how warm Buck is anymore. So I used to think that Naked was like as equal of a love as the Naked 2 is, and it's not. Some positive changes I've had with this palette. So this one has new tape marks too. This still has the tape mark, but I haven't used it yet. This got one and this got one. Because I realized I really like how shimmery the silver in here is, which is Verve. And I really like having a cool toned brown for deepening up. This is basically the cool tone version of Dark Horse for me and my makeup. I found that when I do cool tone eye looks without this palette, I still have to reach in here for my inner corner and outer corner for those, because I don't, until this was prior to buying the Skinny Dip, I didn't have an inner corner highlight shade that was cool toned enough, and I don't really have a shimmery cool toned color for the outer corner, because I like to do shimmer all over the lid, so even the outer corner has to be a shimmer even if it's really dark. So those are things I would buy dupes for, but I wouldn't spend the money for an Urban Decay single on them. I had tape on these three and this one before, and the reason I removed the tape on those is because I feel like I have dupes to all of these three already. In this one, I don't like that much anymore. I can use it wet and still enjoy how it looks, but it's not as shimmery as I remember. And it kind of changes my perspective on this palette, because YDK was my favorite from this palette, which is this pink one. And now it's not, so I'm like, what's the point in buying the palette if my favorite isn't even a favorite anymore? When you look at them next to single shadows, they might look like they're unique, but once they're on the eye, they look the same as the dupes that I have. So there's no point in me buying it for these three shades, although I love them still. I just feel like, I don't think they're losing pigment because they're old, but I do feel like they're not as pigmented as my preference is now. Like these are they're shimmers, but there's not a lot of sheen to them. They're more like satins. Tees I've hit side pan on, if you can see. I actually like this one now. Today's the first day I'm not using it, but I don't like the Urban Decay mattes, but this one is actually really pretty, so I'm not mad about it anymore. Booty Call. That one is actually in my Z palette upstairs because I've been using it as like a face highlight, and I'm going to have to insert a clip of what that looks like right now. So far, I have a decent amount of progress on this compared to the beginning of the year, but I feel like I could have more. But, I mean, this is expected considering I'm panning two palettes, so I'm really happy that I cleared out half of, what is it, Suspect? Yeah, I cleared out half of Suspect. I made a lot of progress on Verve. I don't even think I had pan on that one. I've expanded pan on Busted. I've hit pan on these two. I think I hit pan, or no, I expanded pan on Snakebite. I think I might have hit pan on Tease. And I've hit a lot of pan on Booty Call, which I'll show later. I will not be repurchasing this, and I don't think I would in the future either, only because I'm transitioning my collection to being primarily single shadows. However, if you are looking for a good cool toned palette and you like shimmers, and especially if you don't like super metallic kind of shimmers, I think this would be good because they are shimmers, but they're more satiny than anything, most of them. And the mattes do work well enough that I feel like, especially if you're coming from drugstore, dollar store matte shadows like I had been, I think you're going to enjoy them a lot. If you're coming from Anastasia or Viseart type mattes and you're using the Naked palettes, I think you're going to struggle with the blending. It's not that they don't work, it's that if you have more than one color and you're trying to blend out your crease to make it look seamless, it's very difficult. With the Naked palette mattes, at least in my experience, and with their other mattes, you really have to know what you're doing and where you're putting your eyeshadow. And I feel like as a beginner that did benefit me because I learned the hard way how to blend eyeshadow, so now using other brands is so much easier. I'm really happy with my progress so far. For this palette, goals for the rest of the year, I would like to clear out the top of Verve, and I would like to maybe hit side pan on this one, so the pan right in the center here. And I would like to hit pan on this Half Baked because it's more cool toned, and I want to find out if I actually like it enough to want to repurchase it. And if I complete all of my goals with these two palettes, I would then like to expand pan on these two, just because it's a stupid reason, but I think skinny pan like that, like this, like it looks ugly to me, and I prefer to have pan that looks like this or like this. This is what it looks like now at the halfway point. In addition to my two palettes, I'm panning this year 3 single shadows in Midnight Cowgirl. This pan is expanded, but I hit pan in the beginning of the year. This is Midnight Cowboy Rides Again, which has similar looking pan. Expanded from the beginning of the year, but not by much. And then I have Twice Baked. I know the names of all of these, and for some reason I still need to double check. This one has like no real difference from, I think, the beginning of the year. Maybe I have used it some. I just haven't used these singles like I thought I would, and I guess that makes sense because I'm panning 2 palettes. I just feel like my plan was to use these 2 as lid shades and this one either all over the lid or in the outer corner, and that just hasn't happened because I have so many shades like that in these. But I do want to use them because these I believe I also got in 2014. So they're sort of just old and sitting around. So just to finish up, I plan to, starting tomorrow, I am forcing myself to take weekends off of this project to use other things. And I'm just going to pick a handful of shadows I want to focus on from these palettes and make my goal to just show progress in them for the month of July. So from this palette, I'm going to pick Smog and Sidecar since I labeled them with tape, so I must... If I label them with tape, that means I really want to focus on them, so it's just going to be these 2. And I would like to also work on Buck and Dark Horse and maybe Sin, but not necessarily right away. From this palette, I don't think I'm going to focus on anything in this month because I'm going to be using 2 warm tones. It's going to make more sense for me to use other shadows in my Naked palette to make looks out of that. So this is Booty Call, which was in my Z palette earlier. I cleared out the sides here and here. So I'm going to work on this top part as a face highlight, and then I think I'm going to go back and work on Sin again. But this is my overall progress so far at the halfway point. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!